Well, algebra, before we dive into new material, we're going to start off today and we're going to take a look at some review concepts from pre-algebra. Now, depending on how last year went and how summer went, some of this might seem really familiar and some of this might seem like, yeah, I don't remember ever seeing this. And sometimes that's because we've forgotten, other times it's because, depending on how the year went, you didn't get through all of these details. So I really wanted to make sure that we start off a little bit slower, going back over some things that maybe seem a little bit more familiar to you. So we're going to take a look today at evaluating expressions and then order of operations. You'll see how these two things go hand in hand as we look at them. We're going to start off with powers, just to remind you of how exponents work. We would say 81 is a power of 3 because 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, or 3 to the 4th power, equals 81. All right, and that's important. We want to make sure we understand that any time you have an exponent or a power, it's just multiplying that number. So one of the things they're going to ask you to evaluate is things like this. Now, this word evaluate simply means do math. Okay, do whatever math they are asking you to do. So on this one, we're at like 5 squared is just 5 times itself twice. 5 times 5 is 25. All right. 1/2. You could do this with fractions. 1/2 times itself twice. 1/2 times 1/2. All right. A little bit of review. If you remember this, for fractions, when you multiply fractions, just multiply the top straight across. 1 times 1 is 1. And the denominator, 2 times 2 is 4. And you get your answer. 1/2 times 1/2 is 1/4. The third one here, if I do 7 to the 1st power, 7 times itself 1 time, is just 7. There's actually nothing to multiply. So they're going to ask you to evaluate. Sometimes that's going to look like exponents. So I want you to see that. Okay. We also have these things called algebraic expressions. And an expression is basically, an expression is something that contains at least one variable. All right? All right, one variable. When we're doing algebra, you have letters that stand in the place of numbers. Those are called variables. And so an expression has to contain one of those. Now, on this one, it says x to the 5th, and then they tell us up here that x is actually equal to 2. And what that means is we're going to take a minute. All we're going to do is plug that in, 2 to the 5th. Now, depending on how you want to do this, you could sit there and, 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 to the 5th. You could think through 2 times 2, right? 2 times 2 is one set, is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. Times 2 is 16. Times 2 is 32. Okay. Or this one, y to the 3rd, 3 to the 3rd. Okay, 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27. Okay, now, timeout. I know I just did all those really quick. Okay, I want to encourage you to understand. I'm your math teacher, so theoretically I need to know all these things all the time. Okay, but I want to encourage you that really my advantage is not like I'm super smart. It's time. This is stuff that I've done year after year. And likewise, you guys have done some of these things year after year. And the more you practice them, the better they're going to get, and you'll be faster at them. So never be discouraged if you're like, oh, I didn't get that quick. Take your time, think carefully, and keep working through some of those, all right? If I ever go too fast, make sure you let me know, and I'm happy to slow back down. All right. So given those ideas, notice what they could do is they could toss in other concepts if they ask us to evaluate. So it says a storage cube has sides that are 14 inches long. So right away, they're telling us that the side length, this S right here, is 14. And then it says find the volume. And they gave us this nice little snazzy formula. Okay, that V equals S to the 3rd. And we learned that S was actually 14. Now, this would be one where, like, I don't know off the top of my head as your math teacher what 14 to the third power is. So I would probably sit there and do this way. Now I happen to know this one. I know 14 times 14 is 196. Okay, I'll tell you why I know that later. But this is something that I know. You could have done this, but I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it like in old school multiplication, where I have to carry and borrow and so on and so forth. So this right here, I just want to put it off to the side, is 14 times 14. Because we have to do it 3 times, right? 14 times 14 times 14. So I did 14 times 14, and I'm going to do it one more time. So 4 times 6 is 24. I'm going to carry the 2. 4 times 9 is 36, plus 2 is 8, 38. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 3 is 7. Bring a 0 down. And then 1 times 196 is just 196. Okay? Again, I don't ever want you guys feeling like, wow, that was so fast, and I don't understand, and I could never, because I think you guys can. So the volume is equal to, sorry, that's a really big equal sign, 2,744 inches cubed. Okay? So take your time on this. This would be a problem where, like, eventually, depending on our interaction with each other, maybe I let you use your calculator on. I always default to say, like, you shouldn't be using a calculator because I don't want to discourage your careful thought. All right, now moving on to order of operations. I do want to point out there was a few you tries in your notes. We're going to skip those for now. We're going to take a look at this. So order of operations are used to simplify expressions, right? And so we want to simplify, and the little acronym for us, if you remember, was PEMDAS. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally is the traditional kind of phrase that's used to kind of help students remember that. So we are going to start with any type of parentheses. So parentheses or any other grouping symbol like a bracket. Okay, so sometimes they're square brackets. Another one that a lot of students forget is a fraction bar. So if I have, 2 plus 3 divided by 8, you always want to treat this fraction bar as a bracket, which means the stuff on top is in parentheses and on bottom. So you do everything on the top first, and then everything on the bottom first, and then try to cancel out if you can. Okay? Specifically with math, with addition and subtraction, you want to do that on the top in the numerator first and the denominator. But then we move to exponents, like we were just talking about, powers, multiplication, division, and then addition, subtraction. All right? So when we are evaluating something, we just want to make sure we do it in the correct order. So something like this, again, we're going to look for first for any parentheses. In this case, there's none on these. So we move to exponents. Okay? So I'm going to rewrite this, but what I'm going to do is change this 3 squared to 9 plus 4. So there's no more exponents now. We could do the same thing down here. 27 divided by 9 times 2 minus 3. Then you do multiplication, division, and we do that from left to right. So 2 times 9 would be the next thing we would do here. 2 times 9 is 18. And then it finally plus 4. That's the addition, subtraction at the end. Okay, so 22. Over here, again, from left to right, we're going to do our division first. Multiplication, division, so you do left to right. So division, 3 times 2 is 6. So that 2 comes down. And then at the end, subtraction, minus 3. Okay. All right, there's one here at the bottom. We'll take a look at this. But I want to make sure when we're doing order of operations, the key is, first off, knowing the correct order. And secondly, being careful and clear in your work. So a lot of times you're going to see me rewrite the problem because I don't want to lose anything. And then if I change something, maybe I use a different color. Okay? So first off, I did my parentheses. I can't add these. I looked at the parentheses first, but I couldn't put 3 squared with 1, so I had to do my exponents. Now we're going to go back to parentheses again. Okay? Now I'm going to combine these. So I've got 24 minus, and in this parentheses is a 10. So again, all the parentheses means is focus on the parentheses first. Do what's inside there. So it's like, okay, I know I'm going to start with the stuff in here. Then I work through order of operations within there. Notice I did my exponent and now my addition. Now it's simplified in here, so I could actually get rid of my parentheses, and you're left with finishing out your order of operations. There's no more parentheses, there's no exponents, no multiplication, division, so I just do some subtraction. Okay, so this last step, I would subtract these two, and I get 14. All right, so grouping symbols include these options. So you got lots of parentheses options, and I said earlier fraction bar. We're always going to complete these first. Okay, we focus on those, and if there's more than one grouping, we work from the inside out. So you work on the innermost grouping symbol, and then work your way outward. So when you see something like this on this one, again, there's a lot going on here. Sorry, let's zoom in and bring us to the top. So we want to start on the innermost grouping symbol. So if I were to rewrite this, okay, I'm going to add these together first. 8 plus 13, which is 21. Now I go to the next set in here. So you got 2 times, and again, everything that was in here. 30 minus 21 is 9. And then this last part, I think you guys know this pretty well, but when you have a number in front of parentheses, the math operation here is multiplication. They actually want us to multiply those together. So I get 2 times 9, which is 18. Okay. Similar here. Okay, on this one, bring this to the top. We're going to start, and we want to remember that this is actually a grouping symbol. So it says, like, kind of take care of the stuff on the top. So we're going to take care of this. This is 36 divided by, and we had 2 times, and then there's another parenthesis. So we can do this one also. Okay, we're going to work on that. Well, 4 plus 2 is 6. Okay, and we've grouped those. And then multiplication, division, you work your way left to right. This is weird because it's set up. Again, what I would say is, let's just simplify or keep the top the same. Let's simplify the bottom. 2 times 6 is 12. We did some multiplication there. But remember, we're seeing this as a grouping symbol down on the denominator. So I kind of kept all this together, and I did the math inside of there first. And now I'm going to do division, okay, which is going to be 3 over 1. Or you just write 3. Okay. So each one of these is going to work different. All right. As we're starting off, I just thought we would review, and you have a worksheet that goes through. All you have to do is review 1 and 2 for practice, and really it's just getting you back in the mode of thinking mathematically, thinking of the math principles that you've learned, order of operations, and simplifying, evaluating these expressions to start getting our mind flowing mathematically again. All right, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out, and I look forward to kind of going through these things with you tomorrow.